The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To scratch and major itch. So enjoy your fruity pebbles, you yabba dabba bitch.
The God Almighty! They've killed him! And CM Punk, and I am the voice of the voiceless.
Be the man! You gotta beat the man! Woo, woo, woo! You know it. I got okie doke by the
Live from the Pro Wrestling Report studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is Monday Night Meltdown with your hosts, Damian Nelson and David Hero.
I'm proud to say we're doing things the Vince McMahon way.
That's the bottom line. What? Cause Stone Cold said so.
Bringing you all the latest news and views from professional wrestling. Monday Night Meltdown is on the air.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Meltdown. Damian Nelson, along with David Hero and Matthew Thomas, coming to you here from the PWR studios on Monday night, April 9, 2012. Hope all of you had a happy Easter weekend just last night, or however you celebrated this past weekend. But this Monday night, we celebrated with another edition of WWE Raw, which featured a lot of explanation and a lot of further progression, if you will, of the story between John Cena and Brock Lesnar. An amazingly hot start to the program. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, we want to let you know in just a few minutes, the bottom of the hour, we're going to be hopping into the phone zone. You can call in, share your thoughts on tonight's WWE Raw. The number, 347-996-5278, or all over at 1-877-317-9772. Again, that's 877-317-9772. Also want to remind you, we are on Twitter and Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at PWR Show. Some interesting comments coming in now. And also on Facebook, facebook.com/PWR Show. Again, facebook.com/PWR Show. Got a lot of you waiting on hold, so without further ado, let's get right down to it. Matthew, David, tonight, a hot start to WWE Raw, one of the most intense pull-aparts we've seen in a very long time, one that probably needed to happen between Brock Lesnar and John Cena, and Brock Lesnar busted John Cena's lip wide open. David Hero, your thoughts on the follow-up to the big return of the next big thing last week on Raw.
What a great way to start off Raw. Nobody would have thought that would have happened. When the locker room clears, the babyfaces and the heels work together to separate Brock and Cena. We haven't seen a pull apart like that in quite a long time. And boy, it jump-started Monday Night Raw. I mean, if people weren't tuned in, if they were watching Twitter or Facebook or texting, whatever, everybody was talking about it. Great way to start, and definitely, I mean, they made me forget about WrestleMania being a week ago and going right into Brock and Cena. Awesome. Well done.
Matthew Thomas, John Cena, Brock Lesnar tonight. A little bit of realism brought to us by both of them. Your thoughts on that huge opening segment on Raw?
Oh, it was definitely strong coming out of the gate. I got a feeling I'm probably going to be in the minority on this, and I look forward to, especially hearing David's take on it, but me sitting at home as a fan, the thing that I have a little bit of trouble with, especially when, you're talking about main eventers, everybody from the locker room coming out, is how is that the top priority for everybody at that moment to get those two guys apart? I mean, I understand what it looks like going forward, building the feud, but, at one point before they went to break, you've got Del Rio, Sheamus, and Daniel Bryan pulling one of the guys off. It just, the psychology element of it, I have a little bit of a hard time with, and I look forward to hearing what you got to say.
I definitely agree with both of your points. I thought it was, at first, I didn't like the fact that Brock Lesnar was being brought out by John Lauriniaitis, but obviously John Cena, the babyface, Brock Lesnar getting a huge babyface reaction last week, that started to make some sense to me. The moment Brock started talking and John Cena's music hit, I said, I don't know where this is going to go, because the one thing that started swimming around in my head is that, hey, I'm WWE, I'll get you back for leaving burial that we might see happen, and hopefully we don't, because I think WWE realizes how much they need Brock Lesnar right now. But once John Cena laid that slap across the face of Brock Lesnar, once Brock Lesnar punched him square in the mouth, things got real fast, and we heard about the desire to bring legitimacy back to WWE. It was not only in this scenario, but in another scenario where I think that did happen tonight. This was real. The pull-apart, I cared less that Mark Henry, that Alberto Del Rio, that some of the larger stars were out there. No Orton, no Big Show. Note that I felt less concerned, less concerned that those stars and major stars that come out to do the pull-apart, because I think that added to the legitimacy, I guess, not to overuse that word, of the segment. At that moment, the segment got good to me, and it looked like Brock Lesnar and John Cena wanted to really get at each other. Now, I personally wanted to slap the smirk right off the face of John Cena, because in my mind, there was nothing for him to be laughing about. What is he smiling about? He was like that punk outside the club that got cocked in the eye and didn't realize that he'd lost the fight, was smiling and trying to pretend like he didn't lose. That's the impression I got from John Cena. That moment, that time, he should not have been doing that. But Brock Lesnar, a legit fighter, and it was mentioned on his way to the ring by Michael Cole that he was a UFC champion, which I found noteworthy. It was mentioned again in Brock Lesnar's promo later on. That pull-apart was, I think, the only thing they could have done. At the end of it, it was clear. The only thing they could have done to really push this forward, and lost within all that was the announcement, at least by some, lost within all that was the announcement that it will be Brock Lesnar versus John Cena at Extreme Rules. I'm going to get your feedback on whether or not that's smart in just a moment, as that pay-per-view is only 3 weeks away. But Brock Lesnar, the legitimate fighter, the UFC champion, the tough guy, the bad guy, if you will, not Razor Ramon. But this is really where they had to go with this, because now there's more discussion on the fact that Brock Lesnar got into a fight with John Cena, and Brock Lesnar kept it real, if you will, to what he's been doing for the last several years, even before later on in the evening explaining why he left WWE and why he's in WWE. I think it came together very nicely, but initially getting there, I wasn't very happy with it.
Well, you know, they had to do that with Brock Lesnar because, let's face it, he's coming from the UFC. He's not going to hit him with a drop kick. He's not going to do, you know, a head scissors or anything else. He is a ground and pound guy. That was how people saw him on TV for the past, you know, several years in the UFC, getting on top of somebody and pounding him. So they brought that realism back. The reason, as far as bringing out the locker room, of course, minus Punk and Big Show and Randy Orton. Well, first of all, they don't want Big Show standing next to Brock Lesnar, because they want Brock Lesnar to look like he is that big monster, larger than life. So they're not going to have anybody taller than him in the ring with him. But it just showed the urgency of the locker room, of how huge this is, where the boys in the back, good or bad, don't know which way this is going to go, and just showing their concern for how bad it could be. I thought it was well done. It was well placed. It started off the show the right way. And, yeah, you know what? They mentioned that they'd be at Extreme Rules. Let's hope it's not going to be a gimmick match. Not yet. Let these two have a regular match. Let some other stuff happen and build towards it. Right now, this Brock Lesnar-John Cena match means more than anything else that is currently going on in the WWE, far more than Punk and Jericho. I'm just surprised how quickly they're moving along with this feud.
And that's the question, Matthew. Is this moving along too fast? In just 3 weeks' time, Brock Lesnar returns to a WWE ring, and he faces John Cena. And note that tonight, many times it was said that Brock Lesnar is the new face of the company, the new face of WWE. Is there more they could get out of this instead of, I guess, using the word hot-shotting it to Extreme Rules in just a few weeks' time from Chicago's Allstate Arena?
Man, it really makes Rock Cena seem like a long time ago now, doesn't it? You know, the funny thing is, when you compare the two, you had the huge build-up to Rock Cena over the year, and you've got, you know, this large event with Lesnar returning that you're going to get, 4 weeks out of it, or 4 weeks, until the initial match. So it's definitely a quicker pace, especially when you look at what we saw last year with Cena Rock and that whole build. So hopefully it can deliver. The last 2 weeks of programming, it has been a train that is burning down the tracks. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
As I said, we are. Go ahead, David.
I'm not trying to be the booker right now, but if I am in the creative department in the WWE, and you've had John Cena, who has been nonstop on the go, first of all, in an exhausting emotional feud with CM Punk last summer. Then he goes into the program with The Rock, through the Survivor Series, huge match, goes into a small program with Kane, then headlines WrestleMania with The Rock. Would it now be the time to bring back Brock Lesnar as the killer and take out John Cena at Extreme Rules, put him on the shelf for a couple months, and let Brock Lesnar rule the jungle, let's say for a couple months, and then bring John Cena back maybe at SummerSlam? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe can they afford that at this point? Do they have enough in a Randy Orton?
No, absolutely, yeah, because you know what? The way they're building CM Punk, I mean, obviously, the CM Punk and Jericho was almost a letdown tonight as opposed to everything else that we saw.
Really?
CM Punk, but yeah, I thought it slowed the show down. I think that the fans in general are tired of the of the promo battle that's uneventful about drinking and being a drunk, whatever else between the two of them. But I think that the company is confident enough in CM Punk that he could step in and take John Cena's place, whether it be for 3 months, 4 months, or 6 months, and not really miss a beat because of how over he is with the crowd. He sells a lot of merchandise. And you know what? Take John Cena off TV for a little bit. Let him come back a little refreshed. He's dinged up. He's banged up. Right now, I think everybody can use a break from John Cena.
Wow. As I said, we are on Twitter, our Twitter name, @PWR Show. A couple of interesting comments coming on right now from a user @WalisimRV2. Sorry if I said that wrong. Talking about John Cena and Brock Lesnar in their upcoming contest, saying it's great because Extreme Rules is in Chicago. Now, let's not forget, last year Chicago delivered an amazing crowd. And speaking of crowds, how about the comparison between that Miami crowd last Monday night and the crowd in Washington, D.C. tonight? They were into the opening, but not into much after that. But that could be a valid point. They've got an opportunity to get the buy-in from the audience with what will be probably a tremendous crowd in Chicago for WWE Extreme Rules. User by the name of @KHolt Jr. says, good transition from Rock Cena. The only hard part is who wins, Cena or Brock. Can take Cena to, I don't know what the rest of that means, but anyways, that's a great question. Who wins? Can John Cena survive, Matthew? Can John Cena survive another big high-profile loss to Brock Lesnar at Extreme Rules? You almost got to imagine there's no way John Cena could win that matchup.
Yeah, but at the same time, after losing to The Rock at WrestleMania, it does seem like if that is the way it plays out, it's two big losses back-to-back like that. So, maybe he does go away for a little while, like David said, afterwards, and maybe come back at a later date a little bit stronger. But, yeah, it seems if that's to be the case, and that's two high-profile losses there, back-to-back.
It's John Cena. It's not going to make one bit of difference. It's not. It's John Cena. The guy is a rock star, a superstar, a superhero. He sells a ton of merch. The fans love him, or I should say, 60-40, the fans love him. It's not going to affect him. It would just be like Hogan. When Hogan came back for his big nostalgia run, and he lost to Taker and Kurt Angle back-to-back months. It's not going to make one bit of difference. He's still the biggest star in the company, and let him lose two big matches in a row. He doubts himself, takes some time off, comes back better than ever.
I think there is some potential risk, though, Dave, especially given the unpredictability of today's wrestling audience. I'm not saying it will happen, but I do believe that risk is there But John Cena got an amazing reaction in Washington, D.C. tonight, especially given the fact that Brock Lesnar was standing in the ring. So was that reaction for Cena, or was it for the fact that him and Brock were about to have yet another confrontation? The answer to that we don't know. But we're going to talk much more about this on this week's edition of Primetime, both on our Wednesday and Saturday editions of Primetime, as we launch our second weekly edition of Primetime just last week. So now on Wednesdays and Saturday nights, you get Primetime 2 times a week. You know, David, it's so nice we do it twice. And be sure to tune into that. So Wednesday night, a brand new edition of Primetime coming your way. A lot more happening on Raw tonight.
So does that make us the 60-minute men?
I like to really. Well, it makes. I've been a 90-minute man for a while.
Oh, of course you have been. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Much more happened on Raw tonight, and David, you alluded to it earlier. It was also the confrontation between Chris Jericho and CM Punk, and I'm surprised, David, that you didn't. You thought that maybe that was a little flat or a little dull, because I think it's really adding some depth to the character that is CM Punk. We saw him somewhat vulnerable in the ring tonight. We saw Jericho saying things that could be taken, that could be believable, such as calling him CM drunk, which is not something new that we've heard. But Chris Jericho just has this antagonistic way of just being a prick, if you will, that makes it all that much better. When he was saying to CM Punk, are you hungover? Are you a little tipsy? How was your first drink? I had to make that connection that it was, I guess his first drink when he poured the whiskey down his throat last Monday night on Raw. CM Punk showed, I guess, a bit of a human quality tonight on Raw, talking about why he's straight edge. And when he said that line about last week reminded him of what his father used to smell like, things are getting real in WWE right now. And even if it's storyline real, the feeling is there. And arguably, the feeling of realism was something that existed prominently during the Attitude Era that we talk so much about. Matthew, your thoughts on this confrontation, both physical and verbally, between CM Punk and Chris Jericho tonight?
Well, I think you really hit the nail on the head when you talked about it adding depth to the CM Punk character. We saw last year coming out each week dropping the pipe bomb. You can only come out and make those smarky comments for so long. Now, since this angle started taking place, we've gotten some real fire, some real grit under CM Punk, and I think it's done a lot to, show a layer of versatility of places, different angles you can go to with him. And regarding, a personal angle like this, I don't know if anybody quite does personal like Jericho does. What was it, a few years ago with the Jericho-Shawn Michaels angle where they brought in Shawn Michaels' wife? He always tends to have a very good knack for just these personal angles and really making you feel it and really making you, just building up this heel heat that he's absolutely incredible with.
David Hero, Matthew makes an interesting point, and immediately, Matt, when you made that point, I thought of one person who may have been just better than Chris Jericho, and that person is Jake the Snake Roberts. Remember the whole thing with ravishing Rick Rude and his wife and the tights and all that stuff? I mean, it was good stuff. Jericho reminds me a little bit of that.
My big concern with the whole thing is that this is going to make Punk look weak. Because right now he's starting to get whiny and defensive. And CM Punk, the leader of the Pipe Bomb Nation, was never like that.
That is true.
The fans got behind Punk because he defied authority, because he got in people's faces. He never had to be defensive. He always went through people. And right now, Punk is kind of spinning his wheels. And it's not his fault. It's just the program that he's in right now, where Jericho has been the aggressor, where Punk has always been the aggressor in the past.
Yeah. So
now it's now that the shoe's on the other foot, now Punk is having to be the true babyface and not the tweener, cool bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of cool, I guess it's arguable as to whether or not it was cool tonight, but we saw the guest stars, the Three Stooges, including Will Sasso, who's no stranger to WWE and Raw, doing an impersonation of Hulk Hogan. What the heck does it say that WWE would do a parody of Hulk Hogan, the man who just went to another, or has just been started to be presented in a role of prominence over on the TNA side of things? Was there a message embedded there, David Hero, or am I reading too much into it?
I just think it is the twisted sense of humor that Vince McMahon has. I mean, if you think of all the different characters that they could have dressed them up as, they picked, the one person that signifies pro wrestling. Yeah, there's Austin and there's Rock, but at the end of the day, Hulk Hogan is the Muhammad Ali, the Babe Ruth of wrestling. Everyone knows his name. Everyone knows that theme song. Everyone knows the colors. And they, once again, chose Hulk Hogan. And it's funny because they mentioned the movie coming out. And I'm sure some of us thought, oh, my God, they're going to talk about the sex tape. But, of course, it was, the Three Stooges. But, I mean, who else could they have made fun of? Why else would they have any one of their own characters come out there and take a choke slam from Kane? So I guess, if anything, maybe they could have done the Ultimate Warrior. That may have worked. But, that they chose Hulk Hogan. It's amazing how they had Hulkamania gear so readily available for Will Sasso. So obviously this was well planned out, well thought out. But you know what? What do? They just reminded the people that Hulk Hogan is still out there.
Yeah. Well, a new superstar in WWE, one that debuted last week, which was somewhat of a forgettable debut, at least as far as I'm concerned, Lord Tensai. Week 2 may not have been as strong as I think WWE may have wanted it to be. Not a bad match, but here's the part I can't buy. This week it was Yoshi Tatsu. Why are they stopping these matches? There's nothing devastating happening in these matchups. I understand what they're trying to do, the message they're trying to send, but nothing has happened in this match this week or the match last week that said to me, oh, my God, would somebody stop the damn match? I mean, there's a missing link here, no pun intended, but there's a missing link here, and I think ultimately it's going to damage Tensai's character, especially when you have a crowd who remembers enough chanting Albert. Matthew, your thoughts on this Lord Tensai character since his introduction last Monday night and then tonight against Yoshi Tatsu?
Yeah, I agree with you. There's nothing devastating enough to throw the match out like they've done the last couple of weeks. But I will say that I do think it's a little bit refreshing not just to have the big monster come in there and, it be a 30-second squash. It is, I do enjoy, the matches going on a little bit longer. And the fact, too, that I don't believe in either week he's going for a pinfall. So I see where they're trying to go with making him this big monster heel that just renders his competition, incapacitated. But like you said, there's nothing overly devastating he's doing to really warrant these matches ending. But I will give him credit for trying something a little new as opposed to just having the monster come in there and squash the competition in a minute.
Here's the part that is troublesome for me. He's not Japanese. He's got the little Fu Manchu. I'm sorry. I mean, the Easter Bunny didn't come yesterday either. He's got the little Fu Manchu mustache gimmick going. Yokozuna wasn't Japanese, but at least he looked more believable at it. I'm not
what
sure
about Akeem?
The African Dream? I don't think I can get past that. And I guess I should be able to, but I don't know. Maybe he needed to really destroy somebody because he didn't really destroy Alex Riley. He didn't really destroy Yoshi Tatsu tonight. Maybe he really needs to destroy somebody who we care about in order for us as fans to appreciate him. Now, David Hero, as you know and as you've talked about, the talent is there. There's no doubt about that. But this, I thought I was watching a character I thought it was Shang Tsung for a minute there, the way he came out with all that stuff he was wearing in the ring. And David, I know you may not understand because you may not have played one of the greatest video games of all time, Mortal Kombat. But I don't know. This thing may not work with Lord Tensai. Your thoughts?
If you think about it, back at WrestleMania, they had Shawn Michaels almost stopping the match several times with The Undertaker. So they kind of laid the groundwork that the referee can stop the match, as subtle as it may have been in Miami. But what else are they supposed to do? Have them go out there and beat people in 35 or 40 seconds? You know, they're trying to portray the fact that he's a monster. Almost reminds me of what they did when they brought out Umaga when he first came in. People were like, okay, we don't get it, but it's starting to make sense. And, you know, let the character evolve. It's been 2 weeks. They tweak stuff all the time, nonstop.
But it's not.
It is believable. The guy is a monster.
Nah,
what? You know, it's going to get over. It's just a character development. And who knows? You know what? In 3 weeks from now, they may change the whole thing and say, you know what? You're right. I'm not Japanese. I'm not Lord Tensai. I'm not Giant Bernard. I'm not Prince Albert. I'm the hip-hop hippo. And out comes Scotty 2 Hotty. You never know what's going to happen. But the fact is, you know what? They finally brought somebody back that can work. That's a big guy that has had great matches in the past. And you know what? After 2 weeks, who knows? I mean, when Brodus Clay came out, we all groaned when he was doing all the dancing.
I did.
He grew on us.
I endorsed him right away.
Well, you were one of the very few, okay? But overall, people were like, oh, my God, this is terrible. But it's definitely going to get better. Just where does he fit in, I guess, is the main question. Who does he go into a program with? Right now, Jericho is busy with Punk. Cena's busy with Brock Lesnar. You bring in a guy like, A-Train to feud with somebody, you're not going to put him in there with Sheamus right now. You're not going to put him in there with Randy Orton. You got to find someone that's going to make sense. So right now, for the next few weeks, we're going to be seeing these kind of squash matches.
And I think Lord Tensai is believable. Believe me, I'd like to get behind it, but maybe they can repair the damage. But for me, from what I've seen over the last several years and months, even in professional wrestling, there's been no reason to stop these matches, which makes the whole thing laughable. And then there aren't people in there that you care about. Arguably, maybe people do care about Yoshi Tatsu. Maybe they do care about Alex Riley. But I think that the intent has been great, but the delivery has been weak. I mean, it just didn't – a spine buster or whatever it was that he used, that was enough for the ref to realize that Yoshi Tatsu couldn't go on. Now, if another company on Thursday nights would have done that, everybody, including you, David, would have been all over him. It's just not believable.
No. It depends if the other company on Thursday nights would use somebody as big as Lord Tensai or not.
True. Will the fans get behind him is the question.
I think slowly they will. You know what? Whenever there's been a legitimate ass kicker, whether it be the Road Warriors or Vader or Demolition or it's just someone that goes in there and kicks people's teeth down their throat, they get behind them. And eventually the crowd will get behind Lord Tensai. Whether he's Lord Tensai or if he's Matt Bloom, whoever he is, they will eventually get behind him because fans love an ass kicker.
All right, let's move along. Matthew, your thoughts on the clearly obvious upcoming rematch between the former Intercontinental Champion Cody Rhodes and the current Intercontinental Champion, The Big Show?
I had honestly really hoped they were going away from this when Cody lost the title at WrestleMania.
Matthew. Cody was robbed of the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. It was a closed fist, which is an illegal move in professional wrestling, that caused the Big Show to win that matchup, thus meaning, in my mind, and all the other Rhodes bandwagon followers out there, Cody Rhodes is still the Intercontinental Champion.
Well, when the WrestleMania incident, if you will, took place, when the WrestleMania incident took place, my initial thought was, okay, they're taking the title off of Cody. You've got Sheamus as the champion now. You're going to get him out of the Intercontinental chase and maybe use him as somebody to maybe feud with the Sheamus. Get him in the World Heavyweight picture. And I still think that's where they're going. But I'm really not interested in seeing this matchup, to be honest with you. Big Show coming down tonight with his Cody Rhodes WrestleMania moment. It was interesting in the build to WrestleMania, but now a couple of weeks removed, it's really not doing a whole heck of a lot for me.
David Hero, Mark Henry, where am I at? Mark Henry seemingly leapt back into maybe the title hunt even, shown very strongly on Raw tonight, with the victim being CM Punk.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought for sure Mark Henry was going to be fed to the wolves when before they went to commercial break, and maybe the commercial break is what saved Mark Henry there, because CM Punk was ready to roll all over him, and that's how it looked early on. But let's face it, Mark Henry and Chris Jericho are going to work together side by side to try to take apart CM Punk. Right now, Jericho needs help, at least on paper, because Punk has gotten the better of him the past couple months. So now why not have two heels chase and try to beat up Punk, going into Extreme Rules? I mean, who knows? They may even work out at something where Mark Henry's even involved in that match in Chicago to stack the deck against Punk. But I don't see Mark Henry going any further than just being the lackey right now for Chris Jericho.
An active WWE Raw tonight. We've got the rest of our PWR correspondents. We're going to move around the room and go to the Raw Roundabout and find out their thoughts on tonight's Raw, which, of course, headlined by the Brock Lesnar and John Cena situation. Let's first go to the man they call Meathead with his thoughts on tonight's WWE Raw.
I struggled a little bit with it because I thought it was kind of flat. That opening was so hot and so, just exciting, and it was there, and, everything was working out, and the rest of the show, besides the Funkasaurus, baby, I thought the rest of it fell flat.
Brodus Clay, who was endorsed, by the way, gets what might have been his longest match tonight.
Yeah, and there was offense in that match, too.
Let's continue now around and go to the social media diva, Linda Kay. Linda, your thoughts on tonight's Raw?
I thought it was still entertaining nonetheless, but I don't know. I don't think it lived up to the hype coming out of WrestleMania last week. It was nice to see Lesnar come out. The whole thing with Cena, that was a great kickoff to Raw. And then at the end, I expected Brock coming back out, which was great, but most importantly, I'm just really, really curious what this Extreme Rules match will entail from the end of April.
All right, thank you, Linda Kay. And finally, Dwayne Williams. Dwayne, your thoughts on WWE Raw tonight?
I'm a little higher on it than it seems like everybody else is. I thought it was a decent show. I think that they possibly could have switched the order of the main event and the opening segment. Other than that, I enjoyed it, and I definitely am surprised that they've been able to just put Brock Lesnar right in the mix of things so quickly. But I'm glad that it's happening.
All right, thank you so much for those comments, and we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, the rest of the show is dedicated to your phone calls. We'll be back on the other side talking more about WWE Raw. The number 877-317-9772 or 347-996-5278. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Meltdown.
Monday Night Meltdown continues after this, live on Blog Talk Radio. The Monday Night Meltdown phone zone is now open. Give us a call live at 1-877-317-9772. And be sure to press 1 to get in where you fit in and be part of tonight's live show. We'll call on you by your area code, and when you hear it, tell us your name and where you're calling from. Then proceed with your question or comment.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown. Damian Nelson along with David Hero, Matthew Thomas. We're talking about WWE Raw from Monday, April 9, 2012. I want to remind everybody who's listening right now to listen and follow the show here on Blog Talk Radio, Pro Wrestling Report. Last week's episode right now on the #1 sports program on all of Blog Talk Radio. Support the Pro Wrestling Report and just click on that follow button to follow the show and get email updates whenever the show is going to be broadcast. And never miss out on the Pro Wrestling Report. I want to also thank all the people engaging in active discussion in the PWR chat room right here on Blog Talk Radio right now. Always one of the most active chat rooms on the site each and every week. We appreciate those of you who tune in and engage in the continuing discussion that occurs in the chat room. Let's go now to our first phone call, and we're going to go to Michigan. And David from Michigan is our first caller of the night. David, you're live.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight?
Tremendous.
That's good. I thought Raw was good. Some early. I thought it was, but if you take out Brock Lesnar from Raw tonight, I think it was just an average Raw. I mean, with Brock, he makes. Hey, after that first segment tonight, it made me want to see the pay-per-view. Okay, I'm buying the pay-per-view. I want to see it just because of that match right there.
Not Rock, I'm sorry, still got Rock on the line. Brock Lesnar and John Cena. Some people have said that. And thanks for that call, David. I guess it is that big a matchup, which leads more to the question of, should this have been put off till SummerSlam? It seems like it's almost a bit of a hot shot kind of move by throwing Lesnar into the ring right away. But at the same time, if you're WWE, you've got momentum you need to preserve. The momentum coming off of WrestleMania, and how better to preserve that momentum than to give another hot pay-per-view. I will caution them with this, though. Remember, I believe it was after, had to be WrestleMania 19 when Goldberg debuted. And remember, we saw the promo that he was going to be at the next pay-per-view. That was huge, I guess, but Goldberg's overall run in WWE, I think in part because of that, wasn't as strong as maybe it could have been. I think there's a risk here with leaping so fast into this, which is a money matchup.
Damien, you're gonna get your SummerSlam match with Brock and John Cena, but it's going to be after Cena takes time off after Extreme Rules. The only way it's the only way. Because listen, the fans are not going to want to sit through 3 or 4 or 5 pay-per-views between the two of them. They have to get their money's worth, and what better way to do it than to have the killer, the ultimate fighting machine, the beast, Brock Lesnar, take out the Golden Boy. It's going to happen. For the future of this company for this year. Now, keep in mind the stock is at the lowest price it's been in a long time. They need something to generate interest, and what better way than to put John Cena on the shelf and let Brock Lesnar run rampage over everybody in the company. Let him beat CM Punk to become the champion. Hell, let him beat Punk and then Sheamus and unify the titles going into SummerSlam. Let Brock Lesnar who is a legitimate tough guy, a legitimate UFC fighter, let him be that guy for a couple months. Then you bring back John Cena and let John Cena be the guy that beats Brock Lesnar. It elevates John Cena more beating Brock Lesnar than it would have John Cena beating The Rock.
Let's go down to our next phone call, and it's going to be back to Michigan, this time Detroit specifically. Jay from Detroit, Michigan. You're live. You're on the Pro Wrestling Report.
How you guys doing?
Tremendous.
I'd like to say thank God for DVR because I missed the first 15 minutes of Raw, and my wife called me telling me John Cena got his teeth knocked out, was bloody, and I sped like 100 down the freeway. Like, I was so upset that I missed the first 10 minutes. Friends calling me like it was so real. And when I saw it back on DVR, I said, wow. I mean, this is a real moment in wrestling, and I missed it. And
Jay, I just want to ask you one question about that. Did John Cena's behavior during that whole pull-apart, did that help or hurt the segment for you once you actually got to see it?
When I saw it and I seen him smiling like you said, I'm glad that he really got his mouth punched by Brock. Just because he was smiling, because he know he lost that fight. I mean, It was a real fight. And when they slow-moed the fish shot, I said, wow, Lesnar was for real. It was real. And this is gonna be better than Rock and John Cena. Make that look like Disneyland. Like, this is gonna be a real fight.
All right, Jay from Detroit, thank you very much for that call. Matthew, I'd like to ask you a question pertaining to Jay's call, which is, obviously Brock Lesnar's believable. He's got the cred, if you will, to just go through, as David Hero just mentioned a little while ago, and run buckshot or run rank over everybody in WWE. The question is there anybody else in WWE right now who has that same level of believability, who can throw a legit punch to the mouth of a John Cena or anybody else, and you understand that, yes, that's what that guy does. Yes, that is legit. And yes, most importantly, I believe him.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's Lord Tensai, there's Sheamus, and there's Big Show.
Matthew, your thoughts? I disagree.
Nobody initially comes to mind to have that type of impact. And something that, I heard a lot tonight, and we've thrown it around a lot on the show tonight, but I am curious, all this talk of legitimacy, do you run a risk with that? Is that really a healthy dialogue to be having in professional wrestling, in the WWE, coming in and basically Lesnar brings the legitimacy now that it's alluded to that the WWE and pro wrestling is missing. Could that potentially backfire?
And I don't think so with today's fan. I think they want that because what are today's fans most irritated by, I guess, as it pertains to wrestling? And I think it's that cheesiness that they want to be so smart, they want to know so much more than what's being presented on TV. And I think if you can blur that line a little bit, I think that's what the fans of today want. And David Hero, you made a point about at least one of those people, which was Sheamus. I said the question though was right now, today. Sheamus is too busy smiling to, in my mind, be taken as legitimately as a Brock Lesnar can be, because he ain't smiling about nothing but the fact that he knows he's the baddest man there right now.
Well, right, but I'm just saying, if there is no Brock Lesnar, then it's those three guys that could do it, that could deliver a knockout punch and say, damn, you know what I mean? And with Sheamus, it might be the bro kick, okay? With Big Show, obviously it's the big knockout that, almost took Cody Rhodes' head off. And with Lord Tensai, we haven't really seen what his big knockout blow was, but he would be believable also. But right now, Brock Lesnar is the guy that brought it in. It's amazing how they went from the billion-dollar box-off king in The Rock to now the UFC Ultimate Fighter, baddest man on the planet. Here comes the pain, Brock Lesnar, all within a matter of 10 days.
Yeah.
Talk about a reset as far as, The Rock and John Cena, they were trash-talking back and forth for a year. John Cena never once slapped The Rock across the face. They never had the big pull apart, So now how does all of a sudden does John Cena have, the cashews to go and slap, Brock Lesnar across the face, a legitimate, guy that could rip his arms off if he wanted to. Just interesting how it depends on who they're in the ring with as to how the character evolves.
Let's continue on the phone calls, and let's go now to a caller from New Jersey. Gabriel, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I'm so sick of Cena just trying to smile it off, oh hey, I'm cool, I'm still Cena, everything. Dude, your mouth is bloody. Stop smiling. It just looks like I'm glad that you kicked off the show like that, because it's just dude, stop doing that. You just got beat up. But
what's he supposed to do? Is he supposed to cower?
No,
and say, wow,
look
man,
angry.
he hurt me?
Look angry. Why is that so difficult? Look mad that you just got beat up. Look angry. It's not difficult, He just has to be. And he pointed to the camera. When the camera was looking, he points to his face. Oh, is there something on my mouth? Dude, stop being jokey. You're in a fight, And they're pulling each other apart, and the smiling just doesn't make sense.
But if you think about it, with today's athlete, and I'm not defending John Cena, but with today's athlete, whether it be a LeBron James or the new crop of UFC fighters or boxers, whoever it is, arrogance and cockiness are now the main emotion, and now they just try to get under people's skin. Whereas back in the day, whether it would have been Savage or Jake Roberts or Rick Rude or whoever, they would have showed anger and they would have showed fire. Today's superstars aren't wired that way. Now it's all about, I'm tougher than you, you can't hurt me, I'm going to show you that you can't hurt me no matter what you do. And unfortunately, that's how these guys are today.
And that you really think that got under Brock Lesnar's skin?
Oh, not at all. Brock Lesnar is the same way. You punch him in the mouth, he's going to stand there and smile and let that blood drip off his chin. He's not going to sell it.
But I think the difference is a Brock Lesnar doing that. You believe him in the fact that he is smiling because A, he likes the pain, and B, he knows he's going to tear you apart when he gets his hands on you. Back to that believability. I don't think John Cena has that believability in a real fight, if you will. You make the point a lot, David Hero, about who you're more inclined to be afraid of in a real fight. And while I don't doubt that John Cena can bring it, when you compare him to Brock Lesnar, there seemingly at this point is no comparison. So when Brock does it, it's viewed much differently than when a John Cena does it. It's viewed as cute, funny, ha-ha John Cena, as opposed to being a tough guy.
Well, it's two different guys. When was the last time you honestly saw a baby face snap and get angry? It's been quite a while. And you can talk about in TNA and Ring of Honor, whatever it is. I can't think of a time when a baby face has really lost their cool and went after a heel.
Thank you for that call, Gabriel out of New Jersey. I want to remind everybody listening that you can pick up the Pro Wrestling Report on iTunes in one of two ways. Just search for the Pro Wrestling Report on iTunes. You can get all the free radio shows and all of our content on iTunes. Go ahead and download that and never miss an episode and take the show with you on the go. Also, you can get the PWR app. Just go to pwrshow.com. Click right on the links on the front page there. You can get it either for Android or for iTunes. And when you get the app, you get the exclusive first look at all of our episodes, including the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Wednesday and the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Saturday. The only way to get them first is to get the app at iTunes. Let's continue on the phones now. Go to our next caller, who is calling us from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Conrad, you're live.
How you guys doing?
Hey, Conrad.
How's it going? Man, I had to say this, man. Brock, he just made me want to get a Jimmy John's. I tell you that, though. I want to meet a Jimmy John's sandwich after he did not Cena's lip off. But I really do have to say it's a good thing that they did bring Brock Lesnar in. I do question it. Was it too early for the instance, like Tensai? Tensai, he came in right with Brock Lesnar, and I think his hype was kind of like mellowed out because of Brock. And I really like to see that pay-per-view be like another month back because I think it's too quick. But I do understand where Dave is coming from when he said that you don't have to wait like 3 to 4 or 5 months to a year like the whole Cena and Rock thing. So it's interesting. And my last comment is, for WrestleMania 29, I really want to see a Randy Orton-Steve Austin match. Viper versus the Rattlesnake. Can that happen, Dave and Damien? Can it happen? I'll let you guys go.
Thank you for that call, Conrad out in Sheboygan. I think it could happen, but we know Stone Cold has said that if that one match is still in him, that one match would have to be a huge match, and it would have to have a reason. I'm not sure if Randy Orton at this point in time is that reason, but I won't dispute that it could possibly happen. Thank you again, Conrad, for that call from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Let's stay right here in our home state of Wisconsin and go out to Waukesha now. Sean in Waukesha, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, guys, what's up?
Hey, Sean.
I know a lot of people are talking about the Brock Lesnar Cena thing, but I think the Raw tonight was an okay. I think the only thing that saved it was the Brodus Clay tag team match. But I know I was going to talk about this last week, but I think since John Lauriniaitis is in charge of both Raw and SmackDown, but I don't know how long, I think just because he's in charge, I personally think that WWE is literally down the toilet. Absolutely.
Down the toilet, you say?
He is the worst GM ever. He calls it people power. He and David Otunga are the people, and they have the power. I hope at SummerSlam he and Teddy Long will face at SummerSlam in a normal match, and Teddy Long will whip his ass and become general manager of both Raw and SmackDown. That's my personality of it, because John Lauriniaitis sucks ass as a GM.
Sean from Waukesha, thank you very much.
That's rather interesting.
You know, here's the thing. John Lauriniaitis is a great character. Think of a WWE without him right now. It wouldn't be as entertaining. Let's just be frank. And the people power thing and all that stuff. I thought this week was maybe one of the wasn't as good a week as it was last week for the whole GM storyline. But now look at what you're getting. You're getting cross-pollination, I guess you can call it, of the two brands. And don't forget, big live SmackDown tomorrow night. It's the old-school SmackDown. But now you've got Teddy Long as a stooge, if you will, on Raw, which will ultimately only help John Laurinaitis' character. I look at John Laurinaitis and I see a train wreck, and I love every minute of that train wreck that is John Lauriniaitis. I think it's been tremendous. To say WWE has gone down the toilet, if you will, while you're entitled to your opinion, Sean, I think that all the evidence is to the contrary of that. However, there's a great risk if they don't maintain their momentum, if they don't continue to engage the fans that joined back watching WWE because of The Rock and those that are joining back watching WWE because of Brock Lesnar.
Well, I think that John Lauriniaitis is doing exactly what is being asked of him. He's being the antagonist. He's that heel power figure that they need. Teddy Long, as entertaining as Teddy is, he's not the guy that is needed right now. He's not the person that needs to be leading both brands. Right now they have to establish some heels because there aren't a whole lot of strong heels in the company. And right now with the Johnny Ace team, Team Johnny, that's exactly what he's doing. He's brought in Brock Lesnar. He's definitely going to be siding with Jericho on a few other things. And for right now, Johnny Ace is the perfect fit for Raw and SmackDown.
His delivery is just so entertaining, just that dry kind of clumsiness where he really believes that he is, in fact, Mr. Excitement. I've really, really enjoyed this evolution of the Johnny Ace character over the last several months.
Thank you again for that call, Sean. Let's go now to our next caller, and let's go to Davenport. Trina, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
What's up, guys? How are you doing today?
Tremendous.
I'm great.
First of all, can we all say it? We need Paulie. We need Paul Heyman badly for Brock Lesnar. What I liked about Brock Lesnar is he had the strength, but Paulie had the mouth. I don't like when Brock Lesnar talks because you guys say John Cena is dry and monotone. I get that from Brock Lesnar. I'm like, yes, I know you're the baddest, yes. But he doesn't, he kicks ass, but he doesn't entertain me. Paul Heyman did that. Paul Heyman risen him up to that badass status. So
but the UFC World Champion does not need a mouthpiece. Actions speak louder than words, and he is one of the biggest stars in MMA and UFC and now back in wrestling. Bringing Paul Heyman back only decreases the value of Brock Lesnar.
And arguably, Brock Lesnar, and you may have said this, David, if you did, I apologize. Brock Lesnar needed Paul Heyman when he first came in. Brock Lesnar now doesn't need Paul Heyman. And no matter who Paul Heyman's attached to, they're golden because he's that good on his own.
Right, but they're paying $5 million a year to Brock Lesnar.
Hey, come on now, that's a rumor. That's a rumor.
Oh, okay. So he's making somewhere between couple million to $5 million. Yeah. Okay, he's seven figures. All right. Yeah. So when you're paying somebody seven figures, you don't get a mouthpiece.
Right. Let's go to our next caller, and it's going to be our final caller of the evening. We're going to go down to Houston, Texas. Jesse, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Tremendous.
Can we actually say, as wrestling fans, we're being spoiled since March, since The Rock came back, and ever since WrestleMania got a hit, we've been spoiled as Raw tonight because Brock Lesnar, the way it wasn't just Brock. I actually liked the Chris Jericho. I know many people didn't, but I actually liked the Chris Jericho segment a lot. I think the Chris Jericho segment had a lot of meaning because I think it was Damien that said that it brought a lot of humanism to CM Punk. But it actually made a more of an explanation of what will happen in Extreme Rules, which it probably will be an actual brawl And it probably might end up being a submission match, probably, instead of going to Over the Limit, since they both have two special submissions. And maybe to bring up the point on Lord Tensai, is it possible that maybe we're just tired of seeing wrestlers being squashed, and instead of starting with a wrestler being squashed, they should start out with a wrestler that already should have a meaning, like they said, Brodus Clay has a meaning, or maybe Zack Ryder probably already has a meaning towards the fans, or, let him start out with actually someone good, and then if he can squash him, but if he can't, oh well, then let him grow that squashing over time. Just let him use his manager, Sakamoto, I believe. Let him use his manager as a great figure character. That's all I have to say for tonight, guys.
All right. Thank you very much for that call. Jesse from Houston. I guess it's arguable. I mean, we go back to the days, and we go back to the days of Superstars and Challenge, where every match was a squash match. You do that today to professional wrestling fans, and they're going to leave your program in droves, because ever since the Monday Night Wars, we've been conditioned to expect main events each and every week on television. And when you put a Yoshi Tatsu or a Alex Riley or a random jobber from insert town you're in being his hometown that night, the fans lose interest. I mean, that's your popcorn match. That's your beer match. And, whether it's right or wrong, it's the way it is now. And I'm not sure if there's a formula that exists today where you can make these monsters believable. Now, Brock Lesnar, I guess, and we're talking 8, 9, 10 years ago, 10 years ago actually, when he came in, believable. Since then, I mean, Mark Henry was the last believable monster that WWE, I guess, sort of created with his last run, and he did it beating up audio guys and beating up, some people as well. But I think you knew enough about Mark Henry in the past where you could easily believe it, and I'm not sure they've given us the same foundation, if you will, for Lord Tensai.
When Brock Lesnar first came in, they put him on the road with Matt Hardy. And Shannon Moore and guys like that. But that's a different kind of animal than Lord Tensai. But Brock Lesnar was pretty damn new, and he was still cutting his teeth. Whereas Lord Tensai, he's been a star in Japan now for quite a while. So I guess, there's no reason to bring Lord Tensai in there and show that he can be vulnerable. Wait until he's in a meaningful feud where the babyface can finally get something on the guy. Squashing guys like Alex Riley and Yoshi Tatsu and, Curtis Hawkins or whoever else, it doesn't make a bit of difference because obviously creative has nothing for those other guys to do. So they should just be happy that they're getting some face time on TV right now. But you know what? At the end of the day, they know what they're doing. They're smarter than we are because it usually makes sense towards the end. It doesn't make sense right now. But all of a sudden, something's going to click with Lord Tensai and be like, wow, damn, that was brilliant.
And on that note, we're going to end the show. I want to thank all of you who joined us in the chat room. I want to thank all of you who called in and were a part of the program tonight. This discussion will continue this Wednesday night on the PWR Primetime Wednesday night edition, and then again on Saturday on PWR Primetime Saturday night. And, David, I think we got to be the booker this week, too, don't we? I find that as part of...
we do. We got a little TNA action. But you know what I'm most excited about? I'm most excited about watching SmackDown and recognizing some faces tomorrow night.
It's the old school, I guess, throwback edition of SmackDown tomorrow night on Sci-Fi. Important note, make sure you check your DVRs if you're not going to be home for that, because I do believe the title is changed, so it may not pick it up automatically. Would not want you to miss a big live edition of SmackDown tomorrow night from WWE. But if you do, be sure to tune in to the Saturday edition of Primetime as we talk about all that happened in this week's professional wrestling from both WWE, TNA, and even, yes, Ring of Honor Wrestling. So, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. Remember to follow us on Twitter at PWR Show. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PWR Show. And tune in on Wednesday for the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time, which can be seen first at PWRShow.com. For Matthew Thomas, Dwayne Williams, Linda Kay, the man they call Meathead, and David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's edition of PWR Meltdown.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, real.